I'm Jessica Ann Pressler, and you've tuned into Your Traitor Within, a podcast that exposes the brutal truths of healing, self discovery, and breaking free from relentless patterns of self sabotage. I'm here with Lisa Johnson, the co founder of Been There, Got Out, a high conflict divorce coach and certified domestic violence advocate. And she's here today to tell her story of her traitor within and how it manifested in her first marriage.
Oh my gosh, it's always hindsight, right? I
Yeah.
think probably after my 20-year relationship and 18-year marriage with my husband,
Mhm.
when I was looking back and thinking, how did I get involved with someone who was completely living a double life? How
Mhm.
could I have ignored these red flags that, we all see in the beginning and we all make excuses for? And I started realizing that it did have to do maybe with the dynamic in my family of origin, and that I probably married the first person that my mom actually approved of. The person that I married, it just coincidentally, so my mom is a realtor, and she was working for his dead mother's real estate company. I
Wow.
never met my ex-husband's mother because she died before we got together, but she had started a real estate company and my mom was working for it. My mom was like so excited to hear that I was dating the son of the former owner of the company that she worked for. And I was so used to everything that I did, whenever all kinds of achievements. When I'd come to both my parents, my dad would be like, "Oh, that's great," and really supported. My mom would be like, "Great, but what
Mm.
about this?" Like, and how about this? So it was never enough. And even though my ex-husband, I was never physically attracted to him. I actually was kind of repulsed by him physically. I kind of, in my head, made excuses like, well, he's a little bit older. He's probably like a man. I mean, we met when I was probably 22, actually 21, 22. But I had been backpacking through Europe and I had always dated these kind of men children. And I thought, well, it's time for me to grow up and get a good job and like get in a real relationship. So he was a little bit older. He had a career. His mom owned this real estate company. He had property. He was really smart. And so on paper, it was like, this is the person that I should probably be with, even though it didn't feel right. But like the first person that my mom was like, ooh, he's like a catch. Nobody else was ever good enough. I was never good enough. And so I think probably then was the first time that when getting out of that relationship, I was like, what, why didn't somebody say something to me? Like, what are you doing? Are you sure? Like, why are you marrying this person?
Well, your trader also told you to ignore your feelings because you were mindful of something was not right here.
I think that's how we're raised.
Hmm.
I think in general we're raised to sort of put things to the side and think, well, this is how it should be, and this sounds good, or this looks good, or I'm going to have this kind of life. And so even when your gut or whatever it is saying, it doesn't feel right, you let other people's voices enter your head.
Exactly. And that is what the traitor is. So your mother, the need to please her, the need to have her love what you're doing or the choices you make, that obviously is very powerful for you or was at the time.
Yeah, yeah, I think that, and I think so that was one thing like later, but also in the couple of years that it took to really extract myself from that relationship, because I didn't just like run off with the kids. I really took my time and tried to figure out the smart way to do it and the safe way to do it, and also the way I could best protect my children. I I started thinking about how the dynamic in my probably relationship with my parents, as well as just in general, was I let myself be led by other people. So in some ways it's like I'm really independent and really successful and run all these businesses, but in my emotional life there was this kind of like carefree, happy-go-lucky, like whatever. And Jessica, I just mentioned to you, or I think I had told you, I used to live in Hungary and I backpacked through Europe by myself. And so that kind of flexibility and openness to like, let's just see what happens, that I was always sort of like, well, whatever you want to do, like whatever the other person wants to do, I'm open to. And it seems like a really positive quality. But when you get involved with someone who takes advantage of that, that's when you go down the path that you shouldn't go, because the dynamic of the relationship becomes somebody else making decisions for you. And that can start from the very beginning, like from the first date where they say, let's go out to dinner. Where do you want to go? And you say, oh, wherever you want to go. And then
Mhm.
they make a decision, and then you don't realize, but over time they're making more and more decisions, and you're just sort of going along with it. And so that's what I realized it coming out of my relationship. Really, it was like, wow, what, you had these choices, and you just kind of went along with stuff without pausing and thinking, what do you want? Like, what kind of person are you looking to partner with? Rather than, oh, it seems like a good idea at the time, and I'm not going to really think about it.
So is that something you did in your childhood, or that you gave up that part of you, that you gave someone else the ability to make choices for you? Was it to please them? Was it to feel secure in the relationship? Do you know where it's coming from?
Well, it's interesting because I wonder if part of it is my generation. Like now, parents tend to care about their kids' feelings more. It's like in the car, let's listen to music. Like let everyone can have a turn listening to the music they want to listen to. Or there's more focus on everyone's feelings, not just like this authoritarian, like this is I'm the parent, you're the child, you're going to do what I want. And growing up in the 70s and 80s, like I love my parents, but like my dad was very like, okay, we're going to go out to the Chinese restaurant. We're going to order these two dishes every single time. Like they didn't really care what
Hmm.
me and my sisters felt like or wanted to eat. It was like, this is what we're going to do. And here's where we're going to go. And this is the music we're going to listen to. And I don't know if it was conscious. It's just that's the way it was. There was a really distinct line between parents and children. And so I wonder if part of it, again, was just growing up during that era where it was like, well, that's my parent. My parent just kind of tells me what to do, and I don't have to make decisions for myself. And of course, I rebelled as a teenager, but still that dynamic of like when you perceive someone else as the authority, and my ex was 7 years older,
Hmm.
and from the beginning of our relationship he was always like, oh, you're so flighty and free and it's really cute and everything, and I'm the one who's more thoughtful and deliberate. That in my head I believe that he was the one whose judgment was more important than mine. So
Interesting.
perhaps it did come from childhood. I don't know, but whatever that dynamic was, I was kind of used to letting other people make decisions, but only in certain areas of my life, because again, like I was like, and I am like very independent and
Mhm.
successful, and so it's interesting how just in the emotional life it seemed
It's
more
not
cast.
uncommon, though, for that to happen, where it's in intimate relationships where you're triggered, and then that part of you comes out.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't even I don't even think I was consciously
Hmm.
triggered. I think it was just natural. Like I don't remember being bothered about it. It was
Hmm.
just kind of like that's fine, and if I don't like it, I'll say something, but I'm not going to think about anything.
Hmm. So,
I'm not going to consciously make a decision. I'm just going to say, unless it's awful, I'll just go along with it. So there was very little thought and consideration to some major decisions.
mhm. And were there things that happened in the relationship that you let happen, that you look back now and was not healthy for you? Or
Sure. I mean, and I want to make sure I cover the term lying by omissions. But like early in the relationship, my ex told me, well, before we even really, really got together, I remember distinctly, I had no idea what narcissism or love bombing or any of that stuff was. But I remember him taking me out to this really nice restaurant and basically interviewing me as a candidate for a wife. And he told me that he was a serial dater, which in my head, I'm like, he's so unattractive. Like, how are all these women dating him? And it was probably a lie, but whatever. I believed it at the time. And he's like, yeah, I date all these women, but like very few like really impressed me, and very few seem like marriage material. And again, I was 7 years younger. He's like, you really strike me, and as someone that could be like a wife for me, and you're so smart, and you're teaching, and you have these values. So I was really honored and flattered by that and taken in. So it was almost like in my head, I thought, can I meet his requirements rather than ever considering what my requirements were?
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as the relationship progressed, like after we got married, uh, like a couple of weeks, it was only a couple of weeks after the wedding, and I had gone to visit a friend of mine from college, and I came back and I found out that he had been having an affair. And I was just like, what? Like, we just got married. Like, this is crazy. And so I was like, I'm leaving. Like, this is just the beginning. We had been together for about 2 years. And he, really broke down and was like, I'm going to go to therapy. And he had issues with his mother who had died. And I thought, okay, all right, so that's going to fix everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so he went to therapy, and I just trusted
Hmm.
that he's all fixed, and that's the end of it. And looking back, it was like, so I said I wanted to talk about lying by omission.
Hmm.
So lying by omission, that was like the theme of our entire relationship, which I didn't realize. So
Hmm.
at that time, he had this affair. A lot of people just would have left. We didn't have children. It was a brand new marriage, but it was a brand new marriage. It was like we just went through this wedding and everybody saw. And I thought, why would I, you know, embarrass myself by showing that I'm a failure? I just married this person and now I'm going to leave. So I'm going to give it a try. Um, but throughout before that and the rest of the relationship, I was not aware that he was living this double life. He had been soliciting women the entire time. There were things that I found, records, documented, written materials that he was soliciting women through ads and things while we were on our honeymoon. And that basically continued in the background, but I wasn't aware of it for so long. And so lying by omission is a form of emotional abuse because you don't really have the choice. If I had known that that was going on, obviously I would have left. Like that would have been, it would have been like, okay, there's the affair in hand, you're still doing it, and I'm done. Before we
Hmm.
had children, because I didn't know, there went half my life.
Right.
And so I feel like that was something, I'm not blaming myself, but if I could have changed something, I wish I would have known more and again paid attention, but nobody does.
And what would have been different? And what happened when you did learn?
Well, when I did learn, like that was right before the marriage ended. So
Hmm.
that was in 2013 that things really started coming out. It began with him. So he was generally kind of messy. I shouldn't couldn't say that because I'm kind of messy too, but he was like really messy and would like keep stuff for a while and never go through stuff. So one day it was a little bit strange, but he decided that he would start clearing out parts of the attic. And he had carried a bin full of like papers downstairs to this new little home office. And I walked by when he wasn't home and I saw this picture of this very young woman. It was a photograph, and it wasn't provocative. Well, it wasn't sexual, but it was provocative. The expression was provocative. And something in my gut immediately knew
Hmm.
something is wrong. Like this is weird. He's 50. Like
Hmm.
what is this picture and this provocative look that's like printed out from the computer? And I felt like so sick to my stomach. I just knew that something was wrong. And again, remembering all those years ago, um, and just comments he'd make sometimes like, oh, if we ever broke up, I'd just get a girlfriend. Like lots of things through those 20 years together.
Which
And so
saying something like that
yeah,
is hurtful.
I know. I didn't think about that at the time either.
Hmm.
Um, so I found out that he, longish story short, I found out he had been having like online emotional affair, probably plural, many, but that was the one that I caught. And then that really opened up the whole can of worms. And I was like, we are done after having weird conversations and realizing, wow, like here's someone that I got together with because his judgment, I really respected his judgment. He made me believe that he was the one who would make the good decisions and I can be as flighty as I wanted. But it was not the case at all. Like he was delusional. And the
Hmm.
things that came out of his mouth were so crazy that I just thought, we're done. Like no matter what, I could never unsee this, but I need time to figure out what to do. So then we
And
went to couples counseling
how long were you together at that point?
at that point. So 2013, whatever, 2013 minus 1997. So
A lot of years.
yeah, yeah, a lot. So 16, yeah, 16 years. Actually, that's just the marriage. So 18 years. It was 18 years at that time. And
Mhm.
again, this was half my life.
Right.
So um I we did couples counseling, we did multiple therapists, and I had no idea what the word narcissism meant. I couldn't understand why he didn't seem to care. And I'd spend hours a day trying to convince him that he's living in this fantasy with this person who's, whatever, got nowhere. And looking back, it was like, oh my gosh, I wasted so much time and energy. We had these two kids that I was neglecting because I was so busy giving him all this attention, not even recognizing that's exactly what he wanted. He
Mhm.
wanted my attention, and it was being taken away from so many other things in my life. So
Mhm.
anyway, Jessica, I don't know if that answers your general question, but this is the memories that it brought up when you asked.
No, and then having to look back and question like how come I didn't see it?
Yeah,
Or
like why did I
what
stay?
part of me, yeah, why did I stay?
Yeah.
So was there any messaging and modeling? Was it what you talked about? It was this old-fashioned idea of how you stay in a relationship. The were there things that were more obvious that you ignored to see, that you could have figured out to be there? Where things in front of you that you look the other way, not on purpose, unconsciously. I don't mean consciously at all.
Not, no, I think it was really that first affair that I was like, okay, if you go to counseling and we work on stuff, and then supposedly the counselor who became our couples counselor later and was awful and
Mhm.
had no idea what she was dealing with, that she had been totally manipulated and had aligned with him and then
I
apologized to me later after causing a lot of damage to
that,
me.
that's a piece that I talk about a lot because
Right.
therapists who you rely on can be a flying monkey, but worse
Yes.
because you're so vulnerable there. And to be in
Yeah.
a situation, you're being doubly abused during those sessions.
It was that was so incredibly painful because she minimized, first of all, she shouldn't have even treated the two of us after being his
That's
sole therapist.
unethical right there.
She treated like him, his sister, her ex-husband, my sister, me. I mean, it was so, like, looking back, I'm like,
Yeah.
why did I think this woman was trustworthy? But here she's like a professor at Columbia, and that was the thing. Like when my ex-husband first hired her as his own therapist, he was so brilliant. It was like, I have to find someone that's as smart as me. I don't even want to go to therapy because I'm smarter than all the therapists. That should have been a red flag, but whatever.
Well, he was able to manipulate her, and he probably felt very good about that.
Absolutely.
So he
Absolutely.
was smarter than her.
Yeah. But in terms of ignoring other red flags, I mean, throughout the relationship, it was covert. So I really didn't know. It wasn't like, things were right under my nose and I said, well, we have to stay together. It wasn't old fashioned like that. It was like I really thought things were taken care of. I
Mm.
did not think that he was still continuing to cheat and lie and all the, I mean, there was stuff with money and, everything that came out during
So
the
he was really good at being this covert narcissist, possibly
yeah,
sociopath, depending on how much
yeah.
you want to take it to that next.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, whatever he is, as far as I know, he's not diagnosed, but the behaviors
Hmm.
astonishing. Like I can't believe that somebody could live such a double life where they would act like I super affectionate with me, act like they were in a happy relationship, act like they loved having children, and have this whole other thing, many things going on the side. Like at one point I discovered that while still acting like a husband, he had paid for this who knows what, like God knows where, to come, and he took time off from work and was like going to a hotel with her during the day and coming home to me, and again like acting like a regular husband. Like that came out much later and I was just like, wow.
Hmm.
Wow, like I can't. And 2013 was such a hard year because in the midst of this is when I found out the first thing, and then the whole can of worms was open. And every week there'd be more and more, and I'd find stuff, and he kept saying, "Okay, that's all it is. Like you've now you know everything," and then it would happen again. So my amygdala, like my brain, got so worn down from constant like gut punches when I
Hmm.
think I know everything. Then it would be worse and worse and worse, and from many different areas, not just affairs, but so many levels of deception. And then discovering that his family was actively and had been actively participating in that deception. It was just like every level.
Were
And
they too, or they actually knew the truth and helped
they
hide
knew the truth. Yeah, they knew the truth. They knew what was going on. Um, I mean, his father, like at one point, I remember saying to him, because his father, we'd get together every week for family lunches or dinners,
it?
and his father would say, even knowing like some of the stuff that like they all knew that I finally had found out about stuff, he'd go, Lisa, you have to keep the family together. You got to keep the family together. And then I found out his father, because they have the same name, was letting him use his credit cards to support his extracurricular activity. I'm like,
Couldn't find it.
oh
So
my gosh. So like all of them are acting a certain way to me, and then wow. And then
so
the divorce also like coming at me like it was all the whole thing was like a lie, not just with him, but the whole family.
I am so sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
How did
I'm long over it.
but how did you feel going through it? How did it feel
Which part?
each moment that you found something new? Because so some of the marriage you didn't know anything.
No.
So you were going through this marriage, and then to discover, as you said, you're being like punched or whatever you said every single day, or often with after the marriage was over. But discovering every time you discovered something new, it was like this wound, right? That how did you cope with it? How did it feel?
It felt so I'm a pretty capable person. Like I'm involved with the community. I have my own business, like doing the parent, like I'm really good at like handling a lot. And I got so overwhelmed. Like I got sick. I lost a bunch of weight. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. It felt like, and I've described this to our clients a lot, it felt like a physical ball of pain that I was just waking up every day and being like, oh my God, like I can't, I don't know how I'm going to function. And I remember my kids had spring break and they were little at that point, and I was like I just need to lay in bed, like just go ride your bikes. Like I can't take care of you. I felt like I couldn't, like I just felt miserable. And then on the first day of school, my son's best friend killed himself.
Oh my
So
goodness.
in the middle of that, and it was an international story because and then I was on CNN, so I'm in the middle of like the stuff with his friend Bart. Um I mean, the reason that became like this international, like the case that blew up with the suicide is because we live in Greenwich. We live in this fancy area of Connecticut, and Izzy's best friend had come from Poland to America to have like this new life, and they moved to this really expensive area, and then for 10 years their son was bullied and then finally killed himself, and like none of the three school systems, like elementary, middle, high school, had actually taken care of it. So the spotlight is on me as like the best friend's family about bullying because that was like a big thing. I mean, it still is, but that it was like I'm in the middle of my own personal like horror show, and I'm trying to take care of my kid who is now devastated. Then publicly, it was so hard. And at the time, I remember my ex-husband saying to the therapist, "Oh, this has actually brought our family closer together, so we don't need therapy anymore." And I'm like, "No." Like, I don't know what we need, but like I'm totally broken.
Mhm.
And I felt like I also couldn't tell anybody because I thought if I share this with people,
Mhm.
I did tell three of my closest friends at the time who had no idea how to handle it, and nothing against them, but couldn't really give me good advice because they had none of us had any idea what I was actually dealing with.
Mhm.
But I couldn't tell my family because I thought if like I want to do anything to keep this family together. Like everything is falling apart around me. And if I tell my family, they're going to hate him forever. And so that'll like even if we stay together that it'll be ruined. So I have to like try to figure it out myself. Like but I'll do anything to keep, because I thought, and my ex used this too. He's like, if this family falls apart, it's going to be on you. because I
Wow.
kept being like, I want to leave, like I can't take it. It is so painful. I'm getting sick. And he's like, if you divorce me, I'm never going to pay for the kids' college and it's going to be your fault.
I'm
And
so sorry.
no, it's okay. I mean, Jessica, like luckily I'm talking to you more than a decade later. So I'm fine and I've worked through a lot and I'm tremendous support. But thinking back like that, it was really awful. That was like the one of the worst years of my life.
Mhm. So a big chunk of this, your relationship with him was his manipulation.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
you were being abused, as you said,
I had no idea
and
because it
not,
was mostly invisible till towards the end, then it got physical.
which and invisible, yeah, which didn't give you the opportunity to do whatever it is that you were going to do with it.
Right.
And so you were robbed of that.
Hmm. Yeah. And actually, let me say one thing before I forget. I remember during the divorce, when I don't remember if it was during a deposition or something, but my ex told my lawyer that we had an agreement that he could have all kinds of affairs. And my lawyer was like, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, because she knew that my dad was a serial cheater. So what did she think she was signing up for? I was like, my lawyer and I were both like, what?
And knowing how they think, how narcissists think, I believe he believed that.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And that's the thing when we talk about people with those kinds of personality disorders, it's like,
Mhm.
are they lying or are they just delusional? Because they do believe their own stuff.
That's why you can't engage
Yeah.
because they're going to double down because and not just because they're manipulating, because sometimes it is, but they often in the end believe what they're saying. They have to believe it for their own protection of their own ego. And they, because it's not just about hiding their true self from others, it's hiding their true self from themselves. So they create this delusion unconsciously. Um, but they do conscious things as well, as you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm sure, I don't know him. I can't say I'm sure, but it's likely that he believed it, what he said, that
Yeah.
it was his rationalization of his behavior.
And I'm sure he felt and continues to feel like the victim in all this.
Hmm.
You know,
Yes, but he's not, I'm telling you right now.
I know that. I
He
know.
of his own childhood trauma and whatever made him who he is today, but that's not for you. That does not excuse any behavior that he does to other people.
Right, right. Though I'm sure, it's excused in his mind. And like we say to our clients, he's the victim and I'm the villain. It's that simple.
That's right. And I'm also very sad about his family, actually knowledgeable of all that he was doing, and because many times the flying monkeys are not knowledgeable; they're as manipulated as, you know, as the as you were, as the victim was. But
Well, okay. So
okay,
his
how about
family,
sometimes,
yeah.
sometimes. But this family was not. This
This
family
this
was
this
completely.
family had I won't get into it just because we are public figures. Yeah, this family had a number of their own issues
Mhm.
that also came out that I was kind of aware of and then really aware of. And I'll just say if I had known some of that stuff, I never would have ever even dated him in the first place.
Those would have been red flags, I guess, that you would have.
Screaming, screaming, screaming red flags.
So let's go back a little bit again to the beginning, because that's when you came in as an innocent. Um, what in your childhood, what messaging and modeling, what behavior of trying to, let's talk a little bit more about pleasing your mom. Let's talk a little bit about that because I want to understand your traitor within part, because a good chunk of what you just told me is his manipulation. That is not your traitor. There's two pieces here. We're talking. So we have the narcissist. Okay, well, let's not label him. We have the person who was toxic, who completely manipulated you, who you were oblivious to all the horrific things he and his family were participating in. And when you did understand what was going on, you did walk away, or you
Mhm.
started the process of walking away.
Right.
So you were taking care of yourself. You didn't, um, but the initial getting together with him, the piece that you talked about when you had all these preconceived ideas that this was the person you should marry, because you wanted to, and tell me I'm wrong, but you wanted to please your mom, or this was, or you fed into his power, but I don't want to use the word power. You fed into his, he knows better, or he's gonna be, his personality will be good for you. What was happening there?
All right. So I don't think, like, I definitely don't think there was any conscious thing about my mom, like pleasing my mom. But I think the surface was like, also it had to do with the timing. So I had backpacked through Europe, and then I lived in Hungary, and I lived in this, like, it was post-communism, like right after, like the time was 93 to 94. I had this like heavy metal rock star boyfriend who came with me, who was like a man child, and but we were really cute together, and whatever. But like we were definitely not like a couple, meant to be a couple. So it was like I had this fun crazy year living in Hungary, traveling all over Europe, and being really poor, and being like, okay, like when we get back to America, I gotta like get it together and kind of grow up, which is stupid because again, that must have been something with my parents or culture, society, of like, okay, even though
Yep.
looking back, like I was only 22, like why did I think I had to settle down and get a job and have some serious relationship? Wherever that came from, that's what I believed. So coming back from Hungary, my boyfriend, the rock star guy, was like, "Oh, I know this guy." And I already knew like he and I were going to stay together. That he was like someone I had known from middle school, and we had our
Mhm.
fun. But anyway, he's like, "Oh, I know this guy. I know this guy, and he's really nice, and he owns some property. And I bet if I asked him, he would rent us a place really cheap." And I thought, "Okay." That was my future ex-husband. So my future ex-husband was actually our landlord, and I was so impressed because he rented us this house that he had, and he just made us pay the mortgage, which is like $500 a month. I thought, oh my gosh, that's so kind. Like, what a nice guy.
Mhm.
And then and I remember paying the rent. Like I insisted that we go to his house and give him a check and get a receipt, because when I was in college we had like a difficult landlord who acted like we didn't pay him the rent and turned off our utilities. So I was like, I'm not going to make that mistake. Let's give him the get the receipt every month. So it was just like a couple of months we were going and paying the bill, and I had lived in Hungary in this little village where nobody spoke English.
Mhm.
So in my past, like in college, I was always like an intellectual. Like I love reading, I love art and culture. And my relationship and where I was living at the time made that part of it suppressed that part of my identity because nobody could speak English. I didn't know anybody that I could share my love of literature with, my degrees in education. So it was almost like that part had to be put aside. And when I
Mhm.
came back to America and I was surrounded by English speakers again and literature lovers, I was just like, this is great. And my landlord, my ex-husband and former landlord, he
Mhm.
loved to read. And so one time when we were giving the check, he was reading, and we started talking about books, and I was like, this is the first conversation in over a year that I've had about something I'm passionate about, like books, besides traveling and everything. And it was so refreshing to have
Mhm.
someone have an intellectual conversation with. So again, I was never physically attracted to him, but it was just nice to talk and be understood in terms of something that I loved, like books. So after my other boyfriend and I broke up, I told my landlord ex-husband, I'm moving out, and this is the last month's rent and everything. He was like, "Oh, like maybe we can have lunch sometime." And I said, "All right, fine." And so we started like a very platonic thing for several weeks. We'd get together and just have lunch. There was nothing romantic about it. So it started off like this slow thing, and then it turned into this, you know, relationship.
And was that first day, the change was when he sat down with you and talked about marriage, or was that?
No, that was later. So we were having our lunches together, and having like nice intellectual conversations and stuff. And then one thing that like I said, I love travel. So this must have been after we had gotten together, but we live near New York City. And so he would be like, "Oh, do you want to go see this concert? Oh, do you want to see this restaurant?" So again, it was still platonic, but I was like, this guy, like, he likes the same things I do. I didn't realize he was mirroring me. He is a cultured person, but like as we got more into the relationship where he's like, "Oh, let's go to Italy, let's go to Mexico." And I had just come back from traveling and I was like, "This is awesome. Like we like the same thing." So I could have a life where, we could read together in bed. That was always my fantasy, and like travel and do all this stuff. So in my head I thought we're going to have this wonderful life. He has a stable job. He's
Mhm.
not like he can take care of himself. My other relationships, often I was the one taking care of things. So I really thought this was like a match for me,
Mhm.
even
And
though my body was going, ugh, like there's something off.
yeah, so it's not the typical thing where you hear people who are being love bombed that it's all like this is the one and oh my God, I'm so attracted, and there it's not. This was actually, you could look back and say, I did think about this. I was actually very cognitively thinking this is why this would be a good person. This is why, because
Yeah,
you believe what he sold you.
right.
But but it isn't what you hear often where people in the beginning can't even explain why they like the person, but it's a feeling.
No, no, mine was
No.
the opposite. Like you said,
Right.
there was no, never. I mean, that was always an issue. Like there was no, for me, no physical chemistry at all.
Mhm. So you intellectually said, this is the one. This is why
Yeah.
the person
Well,
is.
also, he kind of groomed me, and I think society grooms us of like marriage is hard. He'd always say that relationships are hard. It's there's sacrifices, there's compromise. So in my head, I was like at 23, 24, like, well, maybe this is what people mean when they say, well, you can't have it all. So I
Mhm.
thought, okay, I've got all of this, like this other stuff that's really, really great, almost like my best friend. This is somebody that I can get really close to, but I just am not attracted to him.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I went along and nobody stopped me and nobody paused and said, "Are you sure?" Like that's just a lot to give up.
Do you think other people understood what was going on? Or
Yeah.
they were also, okay, so he was very good at what he did.
Oh my gosh.
He was a master
Really good.
manipulator.
Oh my, what like even now one of my closest friends is our librarian, and he loved my ex, and he was like, "Oh, he loves you so much. He's such a good father and husband." And when this happened for years, his name is Miguel. Miguel would be like, "I can't believe it." And I'm like, Miguel, like this was always something. It was always like that. He just put on this show for everybody. And Miguel just still like now he gets it because it's been so many years, but people really generally were like, he loves you. He's so affectionate with you. They were shocked, but then certain people in my family and certain friends were like, oh yeah, he was awful. Like the way he'd speak to you or his arrogance and stuff. So
Okay, so there were things that were happening
I
that,
didn't know. I just didn't,
no, but
blissfully ignorant.
no, but this is important. So there were things that were happening. They're picking up his arrogance. They're picking up his, he wasn't nice to you at times. You
Yeah.
weren't, sir. You may not have known about the infidelity. You may not have known about the whole
No,
life. And
nobody would have.
right.
I think they would have been shocked. They would have been like, him? Like,
But
no.
no, but it sounds like though he was mistreating you.
Yeah,
But
but it was very covert. So for example, one of my really close friends, later after she goes, I just remember every time I go to your house, he'd be couch on his computer. He was always on his computer. And you'd be like bustling around doing everything. Or like every time we'd go out to eat, the kids would be climbing. Kids are like these little monkeys, and he just would be
do me
doing.
a favor. Can you say that again? For whatever reason, your voice went out.
Oh,
I don't know if
sorry.
it's coming
Um,
through. Yeah.
Okay. So the friend with saying he would just like sit on the couch and do nothing. And then when we go out to eat with other people, when my kids were little, they were the kinds who would like they never sat in a high chair. They never sat in a stroll. They never sat. They'd be like climbing all over under the table, playing with the napkins on everyone's faces. It was just like constantly like having to manage these two kids. And
Mhm.
he would just be like talking, like he had no responsibility, and I'm like scrambling all the time. And I think that was always noticeable from family members who would be like, why does he acts like they're not even his kids? Like you're the one working so hard all the time and he's just doing nothing. It's all about him.
And so there was a traitor part then to you because there's a part that you ignored that or chose that this, or part of you that said this was okay if it was culture or what you were, something about that because yes, you didn't know about the other world, that he was. cheating, most likely, right? The whole time.
Oh,
Right.
100%.
But it sounds like certain friends were picking up this other part of him. So, what part? So, there is a part of you that allowed or ignored or accepted, maybe accepted is the right word,
Accepted. Yeah.
this mistreatment of you. And where do you
I
think that came from?
I don't know. I mean, I just thought this is maybe the role. Like
Okay. That's
I mean, I worked also, but I worked from home.
hmm
But he was always the one who made like a lot of money. And he would always tell me how much money he made and tell me that if I ever made, I would never make anywhere near the amount he would. And if ever I did, well, actually, when I did start making a lot of money, that really bothered him. Um,
because it takes away the control.
yeah, which I didn't understand. I'm like, why wouldn't you be happy? Then we're gonna have more money. And he was just, it irritated him.
Yeah, because he would lose
Yeah.
potentially the
Yeah,
power.
I just accepted it. I was like, well, he still has like the office job and we're able to have this nice life and so this is my role. Like I deal with the kids more even though I was working too. I just didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm. hmm So, when you left that relationship, and hopefully you went through the grieving process and the healing process, did
Hmm.
you ever have a relationship like that again? Did you ever get to a relationship where you were mistreated the way?
No.
Look, hey, good.
No, I mean, so my partner that I've been with for quite a while now, Chris, who's the male half of Been There Got Out. No, I I didn't even want a relationship after that, like most people. I was just like, I'm good, like I'm okay. It had been 2 years that in my head, like where the relationship is over. And part of me felt myself because of the things I was discovering he was doing. I felt like I wanted to just get involved with somebody else, like to take my mind off it. Because it's like he's cheating, like why shouldn't I? But something in me was like, you are not the same person. You're not a child anymore. You're not in your early 20s.
Mhm.
And other people matter and you have kids. So
Mhm.
think about if you did something like that, you're involving someone else in this chaos right now.
Mhm.
It's not going to be pretty. And if your kids found out, like, what would they think of you? And I just couldn't. I just was like, you know what? I'm going to sit with this grief. Like it
Mhm.
was so bad, but it was the first time in my life I was like, there's nothing you can do. You just
Mhm.
have to be here and figure it out. And it was like all of that pain for 2 years. I dealt with it. And then filing and being astonished with him basically abandoning the kids and dealing with all that. I was just like, I don't even know what I want, but I don't want anything that requires like any responsibility. Like I can't deal with
But I
it.
think that was very healthy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like the choice, I mean, I'm not saying you were so healthy at that moment because you were dealing with all this, but it was a very good decision.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, getting out, I was like, I'm gonna try online dating. Like I've never done that before. I'm not like a computer person. I was a teacher and then being with my ex for 20 years, I was just like, this will be really cool. Like I've never done this. My friends are like, this is gonna be so much fun. We're gonna live vicariously through you. And one of the most mind-blowing things I did was I made a profile. And I actually, for the first time in my life, thought about what I would like in another person. And so I made a list of things of what I liked. I like people who have really good social skills because my ex didn't. I like people who enjoy moving furniture around because I love going to tag sales and I like changing things up. And my ex used to hate it and say, stop churning. And I'd be like, but I just want to see how this looks. So I was like, someone who likes like moving stuff around, who doesn't mind that. I like people who volunteer. I like someone who has close relationships with others, long-term close relationships, people with who have at least two things they're passionate about because my ex made me feel like I was responsible for his happiness. So
Oh.
and I think the last thing I put was like a dry sense of humor. So I had this little list and as I'm reading it, I thought this is nothing like the person you've been with for 20 years. This is so crazy. How could you have gone through your life not ever thinking what you want? And so I put my little profile up. I had some people get in touch. And then I met my partner that I've been with for just about 10 years. And it was just like, wow. And we tried to take it slow. We did take it slow. We still are together all this time. We don't live together. And I remember just being like, I don't know what I want. And he was very patient
Mhm.
in every way. And he made me laugh and we had fun and it was light. And I just thought, I need light. I need fun. I don't want anything heavy. And it's been that way for 10 years. And I'm still completely in love with Chris. And I'm thrilled to have him as my business partner also. And it's very, very different.
That's wonderful, amazing. But interesting that you said that. So doing this questionnaire for your online dating was
Mhm.
the first time that you actually sat down and said, "What do I want?"
Yeah.
And
I
it was.
mean, isn't that crazy? Like in my 40s, to be like, okay, let me think carefully what I want.
Mhm.
And then
And
it just came, like
instead
the
of
whole
putting
thing.
yourself in a pretzel or whatever to please the other person.
No, all I wanted, I was like, I want to have a bagel with someone or go out to lunch. That's it. I don't, maybe a movie. Like, I don't want anyone to have any expectations. I wrote, I am not looking for a relationship. I do not want a serious relationship. I have teenagers. I'm getting a divorce. Like, I just want to have fun.
Hmm.
And I had fun and I'm still having fun.
Isn't that amazing? Actually, having
It
fun.
is. Yeah.
I was
I
on
would
a
say it's a gift from the universe.
I was on a podcast and someone asked me this question, and they said, "What what is recovery for you?" And I said it was being because mine was also a romantic relationship where my traitor I had a traitor within and where it showed up was in a romantic relationship. And I said and being in a relationship where I can just be me, where I wasn't spending all my time dealing with the stuff, where I wasn't consumed with making myself a certain way to make peace or please the other person, where I could just be me. So
Yes.
you feel you're just being you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? The things about me that my ex used to criticize is what are the things that Chris loves.
See how wonderful
Hmm.
that is.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. So very lucky.
Could look back and do things differently in regard to your first marriage. If you could change the earlier times when because you were oblivious to what was going on. So, what would you do differently?
Nothing.
Okay.
Because I learned so much. And you probably hear this all the time because my kids are amazing, even though they're half him, but
Hmm.
they're the best kids I ever could have hoped for. And maybe this was necessary. I think it was necessary to get to where I'm at now.
Hmm. Well,
And
doing what you're doing because of what you went through.
yeah, like I always say, I got my best education in the trenches. And that wasn't just 10 years in family court, that was in that relationship. One of our clients once made the comment recently. She said, if this hadn't happened, I would have been a doormat my whole life.
Hmm.
And it makes me think, I don't think I was a doormat, but I think if this wouldn't happen, I would have been blissfully going along with everything for the
Hmm.
rest of my life and never really having that reckoning
Hmm.
myself about like who am I and what do I want?
Right, right. So
It forced me to grow up.
yeah, okay, yes. So no one wants anyone else to be in pain, but there is growth that comes from situations like this. And I do believe that we are who we are from every moment and every experience and every relationship we've had since the before we were born. I mean, I could argue that the way that you know, your mother was feeling while she was pregnant participates in who we are today. And I think that every moment up until this second, and now the second's gone. So this
Yeah.
second
Right, 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 right.
is building who we are. And we keep
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah. I have no regrets.
And you would not be helping people the way you are. You may be, I mean, I'm saying you probably could be helping people, but you
Yeah.
have that component, which makes you that much better at what you do.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Um, if you could, though, change or not change, I'm not even saying you should change. I know you wouldn't change anything because you wouldn't be who you are today without your past, but would you have looked at things differently? Would you have trusted your instinct more in the earlier dating experience? Would you have wanted something different, or you didn't know what you wanted, or
I
would?
didn't know what I wanted. I mean, I didn't know. I was so young. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say, but I definitely see like huge progress and self-awareness
Mhm. Oh, you've
from
talked about it here. I've seen huge progress, and your story
yeah.
shows that where how far you've come.
Yeah.
It
No, I
also
don't.
shows a lot of manipulation about from him and his family.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's different is my children have the benefit of my wisdom. And
which is,
so my
yeah.
daughter in particular, like they now get to have someone who asks them, how do you feel? Do you trust this person? Why? Why not? Like my parents never did that for me. My parents didn't teach me about healthy relationships. I didn't expect them to, but I think that's really necessary to teach children. And
Mhm.
so my kids, they have the unfortunate situation with their father,
Mhm.
but they also have the benefit of seeing their mother go through this process, but not be emotionally reliant on them at all, because I've been able to take care of myself and get the support I need without ever making
Mhm.
them feel like they were responsible. And
Very,
I see in both of they both have relationships, romantic relationships, and they've so far, like knock wood that we're not dealing with coverts, but
mhm.
they have chosen people that make them feel good about themselves, that cherish their qualities. And so that's the difference. It's like I can't change whatever happened to me, but I
Mhm.
have an impact on my kids. Like my kids are having way healthier relationships than I ever had.
Because you've done the work and you're
Right.
teaching them because intergenerational trauma, I don't know, you definitely had to pick up some messaging to allow what you allowed in your,
Yeah.
met him and in the beginning. And um, it's stopping with you because
Yeah.
and you're making it your job to not only help your children, through now messaging, modeling, now you're teaching them to have healthy relationships. You are helping the world. You're
I hope so.